Hello, this is Mike McMaster from the Wood County Museum with our fourth installation of the odds and ends of Wood County. This is part 4. I have driven across Wood County and Lucas and Henry and Hancock and Sandusky and Seneca for over 21 years and seen many interesting things along the road. And this is an odd and not an end about something that was in Wood County at one time. And this falls in the category we just drove past. What was that? And 21 years ago, I was driving in Bloom Township and drove past and thought the very same thing. And it was this: the Hopewell Mausoleum. And there is the Hopewell Mausoleum as it sat in Bloom Township years ago. Now, if we just look at the front of it, at the very top under that corner keystone at the top, it says 1914. And in the circle, it says Hopewell. And of course, below that, a mausoleum. And I often wondered, what was the history behind this building? Now, it sat at one time on Bloomdale Road, just south of Stearns Road on the east side of Bloomdale Road. And there's my treasure map. You can see other things that are circled. And this is a 2001 or 2003 Wood County road map. You can see the Hopewell Mausoleum sitting just outside the city limits of Bloomdale, and it is marked right there, just south of Stearns Road. Now, the name on it was Hopewell, and we associate the Hopewell with the mounds in central Ohio, and I was brand new to Wood County, but I knew enough to know, well, perhaps there was a Hopewell Mound. I didn't think there was in Wood County. Perhaps there was a ghost town at one time called Hopewell. Hopewell is not the name of a tribe. It is the name of a person whose farm that these mounds were found on. And I thought, well, perhaps it was a prominent person in Wood County, and they named this mausoleum after him or her. But after researching recently, this is what it was named after: the Hopewell Mausoleum Company in Ohio. And they began, along with the Ohio Mausoleum Company and other mausoleum companies, began building what they called community mausoleums. And the very first community mausoleum in Ohio was in Ganges, Ohio, in about 1907. And our Hopewell Mausoleum, built by the Hopewell Mausoleum Company, was built at about this time. There is the Hopewell Mausoleum today in Ganges, Ohio. And there is a historical plate above it. The cemetery, perhaps township or town of Ganges, Ohio, have replaced that roof. And it still stands today. Now, this is an advertisement in local newspapers, and it says tombstone men are acting the good shepherds for the people of Marysville, Ohio, but some of them are wandering from their loving care. Now, this looks like a newspaper article, but actually it was an advertisement written by the Ohio Mausoleum Construction Company. And here they boast of all of the mausoleums that they have successfully built. in this region, Lima, Wapakoneta, Freeport, Nevada, and they also list Prairie Depot, which is Wayne, Ohio today, Bowling Green, and nearby Findlay, Ohio. And here they say that the Tombstone Men, who they were in financial competition with, claim that they cannot find, and I find this, any citizens who has signed for crypts. Neither can we find any dissatisfied crypt holders. I assume they meant living crypt holders, because once they are in the crypt, how would you know they are dissatisfied? Now, this is the Bowling Green Mausoleum. And if you remember, it sat on Ridge Street, just outside. You can see the wall of Oak Grove Cemetery. This photo is about 1946, taken on campus, looking across the street at the massive mausoleum that was there. And you might wonder, why are there campers parked beside this mausoleum on the university property? At this time, thousands of GIs exiting the Army after World War II, exiting the Navy and Army Air Corps and Marines, were taking advantage of that GI Bill. And bachelor veterans were housed south of what was at the time, or I should say east of what was at the time, in metal buildings south of the football field at the time. And married veterans and their families were housed in little campers. And this is just one of the many little camper parks for the married veterans. Now, I was inside a mausoleum not too long ago. I will not say where it was at, but the outside looks very plain, cast cement bricks, but on the inside, good plaster work. There's 2 rooms to the right, a nice iron gate, a vaulted ceiling, and stained glass, or should I say fake stained glass at the very end. They look very beautiful on the inside. Now, this is a family mausoleum, something that also were in competition. This could be built by the Tombstone Men. This is the Schwartz Mausoleum. I will not say where this is at. Beautiful stained glass and ironwork, bronze door that I don't get to say this very often, but is kind of Egyptian revival light architecture. Very beautiful. Now, the Tombstone Men needed to figure out an alternative to the community mausoleum. And this was in a trade magazine called Design Hints for Memorial Craftsmen, 1929 and 30. And they suggested building the New Orleans tomb in competition with this larger public community mausoleum. Now, those are tombs in New Orleans, gives an idea, an above ground. It looks like a small building. And where were these built? And that trade magazine says they were cheap to make and attractive to sell. And I have driven through probably every cemetery in this region and was racking my brain to remember where a New Orleans tomb was. And I drove by one every single day for 25 years. This happens to be in the cemetery in the city of Liberty Center where I live. And notice it's above ground. It looks very building-like. And this is something that the tombstone men could build. And notice the date on it is 1909. At about the same time, the tombstone men are in competition with the community mausoleum men. And the tombstone men were going to combat the community mausoleum evil. And I'll get to that in a second. These are Wood County names, Fish and Zimmerman. This is Oak Grove. Notice how these tombstones are very building-like. On the left and on the right, they have pillars and roofs, or what appears to be a roof on them, especially the fish tombstone on the left. Now, what was the evil of the community mausoleum? Now, this is a mausoleum, community mausoleum built by the Ohio Mausoleum Company in McClure, Ohio. I have been driving by it every day for 25 years. This is Henry County. That is the McClure Mausoleum as it sat in better days. This is the front door of the McClure Mausoleum today. Notice the glass window at the top is broken and completely gone. The bronze doors were blown open and broken. The people could go in. It was such a bad scene. They were vandalizing. So the township trustee chained and put a giant beam so that those doors absolutely could not be broken into. And the tombstone men in the day listed the dangers of this type of building. Number one, the mausoleums were half finished or built kind of quickly and not very good. All of these mausoleum companies are bankrupt and gone. Even at the time, the funding to maintain them and build them was in litigation. And lastly, the cemeteries or townships had to take over the responsibility of upkeep of these buildings in perpetuity. All of these companies are gone. There's nobody left to sue. And this township in McClure now is stuck with the maintenance of this old, not very well built mausoleum. Now, it became so bad in the 1940s, most of the companies are gone, that in the General Code of Ohio law, they passed a resolution that the township trustees were required to take over such grounds. And this included the Bloom Township Hopewell Mausoleum Company. There was no Hopewell Mausoleum Company left. There wasn't a penny to their name in 1944. This is what the Hopewell Mausoleum looks like today. You can see the broken vaults. It is being destroyed and dismantled. Now, where are the bodies? There's this summer. The bodies are at the New Weaver Cemetery in 23, marked graves. And very nice. The township does a good job of keeping this cemetery in order, but the township had to pay the cost of all of these 23 stones. Where else has this happened? The Bowling Green Cemetery. Where that mausoleum sits is today the building for the Earth Sciences and Geology Department. It is their parking lot. It is part of their building. And all of those, row after row, over 100, I believe, that the bodies were moved out of these mausoleums and placed. That is Oak Grove, the back corner of Oak Grove. But I believe the city was on the hook to lay all this cement and lay all these very nice stones, but they are not in the mausoleum today. Now, at the Wood County Museum, when they were dismantling the Bowling Green Museum, we have a few artifacts. These are two of some of the artifacts from inside that building. On the left is one of the stained glass windows that was somewhere in this building. To the right, a concrete cherub that must have decorated some portion of the inside of this building. Now, I have outlined the Bowling Green Mausoleum with kind of white and red. I've never done this before. We'll see if it works. I have actually outlined those campers to the left in blue, and let's see if I can fade out. That is what is there today. That mausoleum sits in the parking lot. Those campers sit where that building is on Bowling Green State University, on where Thurston Road, or Ridge, I should say, dead ends at the university. Now, that is the last part of this Odds and Ends Part 4. There will be more coming up. I have begun working on a new series on my favorite things, things that I've seen that I like, and then I will tell you about. But this ends the Odds and Ends series for now.